and welcome to the School of Cloud. This week, we're talking about the Google Places API with Proxy using Google App Engine and New York City subway mapping. I'm your host tonight, the Google Tech Lead for UC Berkeley, and my name is Jeff Williams. Google Cloud Platform, we're going to be talking about GCP, one of the three largest clouds, lots of different services, and this is the badge that we're working on the Creating with Google Maps quest. So if you complete the quest, you'll get this badge. You can put it on your LinkedIn. Along the way, we'll learn a lot of great information. Now let's go and get started. So the lab we're working on is in this quest, Creating with Google Maps. And we're specifically going to do first Google Maps Web Services Proxy for mobile applications. So I'll click on that one. It says it's a 45-minute lab. It won't take us nearly that much time. They usually give a lot of time. Now we're going to be working with Go, which is a programming language, and we'll be setting up a proxy, and then you'll get to see how that works out. So we're using the Google Places API, the Go language, and then Google App Engine to make a proxy. When we're talking about this, the goal we've got is to let a mobile application access the Maps API while protecting our API key so that other people won't be able to get our key. And also, if we cache data, then we'll improve network performance. All this stuff here where it talks about setup, we can scroll down basically to this part where we activate Cloud Shell. And I'm just going to walk you through all those earlier steps, and then we'll get to this activate Cloud Shell part. So right now is the time that you want to go to that green button in the top left, and you want to click on that with your left mouse button, and then it's going to give you a username and a password and a project ID. Once those are available, you'll want to click to copy the password. And then I know it makes sense to click this with your left mouse button, right click that and choose Open Link in Incognito window so that we make sure that we're using that account and not your own account. I don't want you to be charged for using any resources. Now, when the Incognito window opens, in the top right, it says Incognito. If it says Incognito 2 or 3, then that's a problem. That means you already had an Incognito window open that might be logged in. So you want to close all of the windows in that case. So if you had like Incognito 2, then find all of your Incognito windows and close them, and then go back just like this and right-click on that button to open Google Console and click on Open Link in Incognito window. When you do that, it should just say Incognito and not have a 2 or 3 or 4. Now, they enter the username for us. This email address is right here. So you just have to hit next. And we saved the password earlier so that we could paste it in this exact moment. So this is the moment and the place where you want to paste in that password. If you forgot to get it, just Alt-Tab over, copy the password, Alt-Tab back, and then you can paste it in. Hit next. Accept the page that comes up there if you agree to the terms of service that are tied to that country. So I'll click agree and continue. Now we're seeing the Google Cloud Platform. This is like the control center for as many or as few resources that you've got in Google Cloud. If you've got a huge project with 1 million servers, it's the same place to look to see your servers as if you had just one server. And search is front and center right up there because Google is a search company. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this Activate Cloud Shell button in the top right-hand side over next to the Help button. This one is shown in the documentation, in the instructions, right, as the next thing we need to do. So click on that with your left mouse button. Now in the bottom, it gives us a little window talking about Cloud Shell. Cloud Shell is free for all users. Okay, that sounds good to me. So I'll open that, and Google now is provisioning a little server for us, a little virtual machine, a fraction of a server that we're sharing with others, but we're doing that in a secure way. So here they've given us a command line interface to that server, and while we're logged in and working actively, it's on and available for us to use. So come back to the instructions, and we'll scroll down. Let's see. We've done all the things they wanted, and now they want us to do this. They want us to run gcloud auth list. So we want to list the authorizations for Google Cloud. So which account is logged in, basically. So if you You could type that or you could paste it. And then it's going to ask you to authorize. Just click authorize. That's fine. And then it says the account that's authorized, that's logged in, is student 03. Your student number might be different because they provision those accounts out of a large pool of accounts. Next one, they want us to copy. And see, there's this copy button right here, the two rectangles. Like it looks like one's kind of stacked on top of the other. Click that. Or you could type in gcloud config list project. I think it's a lot easier. Just click copy and then come on over and paste that in. That'll tell us which project ID number our project is using. And you can see it's right there. That's the same project ID that they gave us on the screen here in the instructions. So we've done those things that they asked, and we've proven that we have access, that we can get in and that we're seeing the right information. The worry they have is that people would see their own username instead of seeing the student username. And if you see that, you want to stop and redo the beginning so that you are in that student account, not in your own personal account, because you don't want to be doing the work on your personal account because it won't be able to count towards the lab completion. So here it says, create a Go App Engine app to serve as the basis for the rest of the lab. So in the Cloud Shell code editor, we're going to create a Places Proxy directory by clicking File, New Folder. And we'll call that Places Proxy. So copy those words, Places Proxy. Don't copy that period that's the end, just Places-Proxy. Okay. And then come back over here to the Cloud Shell. Now, the Cloud Shell has a button here, a big button that says Open Editor. It's next to a pencil icon. Click on that to open that editor they were talking about. And now it has a button that came up in a big, mostly empty page that says Open in a New Window. Okay, and you want to click that, Open in a New Window. So now you have two tabs. One tab has this page here about the Cloud Shell editor. And if you pull this bar down a little bit, look at this, then you can see the rest of that GUI that we were in before. And the second tab is the Google Cloud Code Editor. And this is where they want us to be now. So we're going to go to File, New Folder, just like the instructions. And then if you want to paste in Places-Proxy, you can do that now, or you can just type it in, Places-Proxy. And then hit OK. That'll give us a folder. Inside that folder is where we're going to put in the app.yaml file that they want us to make. So they want us to make this file. So we're going to make a new file, and we'll call it app.yaml. YAML is yet another markup language. There's lots of markup languages, and that's yet another one. Now, here's the content that they want us to put into that file. So copy this content, and then come on over and come up here and paste that in to that app.yaml file we just made. Now, if it didn't copy and paste for you, just use the Control key, the Control V, or if you're on a Mac, do Open Apple V instead of using the mouse to paste it. So that file looks perfect, but it's not saved yet. I would like to save it, so I will go File, Save. So we saved the file. Now what are we going to do? This file describes the project that we want to set up in App Engine. We want to have a Go language project. So Go is a programming language. You might have heard of other programming languages like C or JavaScript or C++ or Java or Perl or Python or Ruby, R, many different programming languages. Go is a relatively modern programming language. This URL says basically any web page that someone is asking for from this app, send it to the script called Go app. We're going to have it log in as admin. That's what it says to do. That's what we're going to do. This file, this app.yaml file, is going to be read and processed when we deploy this into Google Cloud. So right now it's just a file sitting in our VM, but when we deploy it, we're going to take that and install that into Google Cloud to an App Engine app. And then you can read up on it if you haven't seen that before. This login admin, let's see, it says that only the admin. In the Places Proxy directory, we want to make another file called proxy.go. So it sounds like the same deal. We're going to copy the file name they want and come on over and make a new file. So File, New File, paste in the name, proxy.go, and then click the OK button. Left mouse button again. And then come back to the instructions and copy the script. And it says, hey, this file's empty. Don't worry, it won't be for long. We're going to paste in the script and then save that. Okay, so we pasted that. Now what are we going to do? So this is going to define a handler for slash. So if someone just visits the web page and doesn't tell us anything extra, then we're going to print out hello world. And that's all we're going to do. Let's see. So this is like the first version of this. Then we're going to go to that folder and we're going to say go app serve. So these two instructions, we're going to go and we're going to paste those back into that cloud shell. So copy the first one. And then remember we had two tabs in Incognito. We're going to go to the first tab. And in that first tab, we've got this cloud shell editor. Over here on the right-hand side, there's a button that says open terminal. Click on that. And then you'll get back to that, to the terminal. In there, paste in that cd places-proxy, or you could type it in manually. Next, we're going to do go app space serve. Okay, go app serve, which will serve that Go application. All right, so now that's running, and it says it's running that server for us at the web address localhost 8000 for the admin, and for default, it's running at localhost /8080, so port 8080. Now, a lot of people don't know about those things. Don't worry. Normal web pages are on port 80. Pages that are in development are usually on port 8000 or 8080. And then if you've got a secure site, it'll be on port 443. But that's, for a lot of people, they don't need to know those details. But the more you get into working with developers and web-related things, then you'll have to know those kind of ports and those kind of things. There's a button, a convenient button to let us preview this on port 8080. We're going to do that. So over here, next to the Open Editor button, there's a keyboard, and then there's terminal settings and a web preview button. It's this one that looks like a little application window with a diamond inside of it. Click on that diamond and then click preview on port 8080. So now Cloud Shell set up a special proxy for us that makes it so that we can get to that even though we're here from home or from our office or wherever we are connecting in. Normally, you'd only be able to get to a localhost address when you're on the same exact network as that resource. So here it asks for our email, and if we want to sign in as administrator. Well, I do want to sign in as administrator, and I want to use the username that was provided in the lab. So we're going to come over here, and where it says username, we're going to click copy. So copy the username from the instructions, and then Alt-Tab back to this window, and then paste that in. Click sign in as administrator, and then click log in. And it let us in because it knows that we are the administrator. So that's cool. We're running a little Go application. They're going to have us make it better before we actually deploy that and then use it with the Places API. So leave that window open because we're going to come back to that same window, that tab. Leave that tab open. We'll be back. So next we're going to make a proxy. So we're going to make it so when you ask for that web page, when you hit that web page with a request, that will then be sent to the Places API with an API key, and that will then give back the results to the person that asked for it. So we're going to make a file we're going to edit the file called proxy.go, and we'll do a bunch of different things. So we're going to have this code, and then in that code, we're going to place in an API key. So we'll have to go and get a Google Maps API key, okay? But first things first, we're going to paste that in, and then we're going to take a little diversion to go get an API key from the API console. Once we've got that key, we'll paste it in, and we'll save the file, and then we'll go app serve again, and then we'll visit that page and see if it's working. And we'll keep tweaking it little bit by little bit until we've got it actually working and giving us the kind of data we want. But there's a problem. It gives us a lot more data than we need. gives us what we want, but more than we need. So we'll work to strip down the data that it supplies so that it only gives us the latitude and longitude kinds of things and a little bit more there instead of giving us every possible bit of information. Try that again, and then we'll look at caching responses. And at the end, we'll have completed the lab. So we're going back to that minimal proxy section. The minimal proxy, they want us to change the proxy.go file. So copy what they want us to have it be. Alt-tab back to Incognito. Go to the third tab at the top. That's the one that has the Google Cloud Code Editor. And then in this proxy.go file, highlight everything, backspace to delete it all. Now we're going to Control V or Open Apple V if you're on a Mac and paste in all of the code that they told us. Except we've got this problem. We need to get an API key to put here into this variable called places API key. So we've got this file here. We're going to save it. But now we're going to go and we're going to get an API key. And we'll come back here and then we'll put that API key in. So we've got 3 tabs. We're going to go to the first tab to go make an API key. All right. And the instructions for it are back in the lab. So scroll down to see what it says we should do. It says we should go to the Google API console and create that. Don't do that exactly, follow those instructions, because that would make it with your personal account instead of using their account. So I'm going to teach you exactly how to do this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to right click on the page they wanted us to go to, and I'm going to open that in Incognito. There you go. That's the best way to do it. And then that'll get us into the right back end for making maps related keys instead of, or places and maps related keys instead of just every kind of key altogether. So to backtrack for a second, we pasted this code into the proxy.go file, but we need to get an API key. So you get down here to step 1. Instead of just clicking on this left clicking, you want to instead right click on it and hit open link in Incognito window. That will open this screen here, this 4th tab in our Incognito. And then you'll see you can hit next, enable, and then get API key. When you get to the get API key, let's see, create API key. There it is. Okay, copy your API key. And then let's see, somebody had a question or comment. No? Okay, so I heard that sound. So copy that API key, and then what we're going to do is we're going to paste that. Let's see. So it's project ID. It didn't ask us. That just automatically worked. And then credentials create API key. Yeah. So actually through this interface here and just clicking that create, then I got an API key. So I didn't have to do those other things that they were talking about. Now we're going to go to the 3rd tab, and we're going to paste in the API key into that the variable. So paste in an API key, hit file, hit save. You got it. We're doing awesome. So now this file is ready to test. We should run this and see if it's going to work. Next step is they're going to have us come back to the Cloud Shell. It's down here at the bottom. Make it a little bigger. And then we're going to hit Control C. Now that'll be Open Apple C if you're well, it might be Open Apple C if you're on a Mac. It's Control C on Windows. And then that'll get you back to the command prompt. And then we're going to go app serve again. When we do, now we'll be using the new version that we just finished. Okay, now they want us to visit that page again and see if it's changed. To do that, come back to Incognito, go to tab 2. That tab is the one that has the preview of our App Engine app. Perfect. I just hit the refresh button and it does. So it says invalid request. So there must be some details that they're expecting from us. And there are, but I didn't provide those details. The instructions are about to tell us what we need to do. Here, what it wants us to do is to add a location and radius to the URL. So what we're going to do is ignore this app spot part. Okay, we want the slash, question mark, all this part here. Now, if you weren't paying attention, this is the moment to come back with me, take a look at my screen, and look at the instructions right here. What we have to do is we have to copy the part after the appspot.com. So the slash and the question mark and all of the rest of that to the end, copy just that. If you hit the copy button, you'll have too much stuff. So the part that we just copied, now we go and we Alt-tab over, and we're going to add that on right here. So this address that we're at, I'm going to highlight the slash, question mark, all that stuff. I'm going to delete it out. So this will end with cloudshell.dev, and then Control V to paste in. And here we go. Oh, wow. We got a whole lot more information now. So what we did was we took that address that was already there, and then we replaced the end of that with the information that they told us, which is we gave it a location and a radius. So that says this certain spot on the map, and then how far around that spot. So we gave it a coordinates, like GPS coordinates, and then a radius of how wide, and then everything that matched our query inside of that was then returned back to us. So there are all kinds of, so this is somewhere in Australia. So all the places near this one address in Australia, in New South Wales. I've never been to Australia. If you've been to Australia, drop it over in the chat. We did that. Now we've got better results, but it's got a lot of results, and we don't need so many. It says we should see lots of data for nearby places. But for our application, we only really needed to know a little bit of data about each place. It's going to give us the photos and opening hours and all kinds of things. But the game that we're trying to make doesn't need that. We only need to know the latitude and the longitude. So we're going to edit the proxy.go and ask for just that. Here's the problem. If we copy this and paste it, we're going to wipe out our API key. Follow along carefully right now. You can do it. And watch my screen. I'll show you exactly what to do, and then you can independently do that. And then we'll be just about done. We'll cache the responses, and we'll prove that that worked, and then we'll be done. So we're doing really well for this first lab. So what we're going to do is take a look at this proxy.go. We're going to copy it. Now the trick we're going to do is come back over to the Cloud Console. Over to the Incognito window. Third tab, where we've got this Cloud Console. Now, don't delete or replace that places key. Just highlight from line 13 to the end after that places API key, and just like clear that out. Okay, we just need to keep that. We can get rid of everything else, but we need to keep that around. So keep just the API key, and then everything else can go. Now we're going to paste in what they just gave us. We just need to move this one line here that has our old API key into the right spot. So now just highlight this one line. It's there with nothing else around it. It's easy. So we're going to cut that, and we're going to highlight line 15 there. On my screen, it's line 15. On yours, it might be a different line number because there was some blank spaces at the top, but it's the one that says your API key. Highlight that whole line and then hit paste to paste over our old API key. If you really lost that API key and need to go get it, you can get that from the fourth tab here where we still have it open. You could copy it again. So we've got this proxy.go, and it's been updated. It has the key, and it's going to do the nearby search, but now it's got some limits. So it's only going to get the latitude and longitude. Look at this. We're telling it exactly what structure we want for the results. So we want them to give us just latitude and longitude in the location geometry results. We're limiting what we're requesting so that we limit what we get back. Now save this. Once you've got it saved, then we're going to go to the first tab in our Incognito window. Down at the bottom in that first tab, we're still running that go serve script. So we're going to hit Control C to cancel that out. And now we'll start it up again so that the new version is the version that we're using. So we'll do go app space serve. Okay, so now that's stopped and started again. Let's go back to the second tab. That's the one where we had way too much output about this one address in New South Wales. And just hit the reload button on this page up here in the top, and then that'll get a much, look at this, a much more condensed output. So it won't cost us as much for network bandwidth because it's focused in on just the information we need, the latitude and the longitude, instead of giving us so many other bits of extraneous information. Okay, so we did that. Now let's go back to the instructions and see what's next. Magic, how did it happen? We took advantage of the way Golang converts strings of JSON into typed data. If you define only the fields that you're interested in, then notice the only fields that they fill in. We did that, and we got these nice strings. So the next thing we're going to do is cache the responses. So if there's lots of people playing in the same area, we don't want to keep downloading that same information. We want to share it amongst our users. So let's see how we're going to do that. We're going to add some more new things. But when we do, we're going to have to replace our API key again. By now, you should be a pro at that. So I'll hit copy. I know I am. And then switch back to your Incognito window. Go to tab 3. That's the one that shows the proxy.go. And this time I'm going to show you the hard way. So highlight that whole thing and delete it. And then paste in with Control V, paste in the new script. And there's something missing. What was, oh yeah, right, the API key. The API key, I left that tab open, that fourth tab up here. So I'll go there and I'll get that API key again, and I'll put it right here on line 18 where it goes. Okay, get the API key, come back, I'll paste that in. That way, so I'll have to do Control V to paste it. Save. Okay, now that's not going to be done just yet. We first will have to stop and start that Go app server again. So Control C in the Cloud Shell, and then you can run this again. Now they're having us just deploy this kind of locally inside this little Cloud Shell virtual machine. When you're really ready to deploy this into App Engine, you'll take this and you'll run a little bit different command so that it gets installed as an App Engine app. And there's a little bit more work to do that. But this script that we worked on is really the same as what you would do for an App Engine app that gets deployed. It's just we haven't deployed this yet. We only ran it locally inside of this Cloud Shell. So we've been working on it and saving it and building upon it. And it's saved there in Google land, but it hasn't been deployed to run forever. But we're just doing this lab for an hour, and then or less, and then we're done with the lab, and then we move to the next lab. So we don't really need to have it live forever. Okay, so we did that. Now what do they want us to do? Oh, reload the browser and see if we can cut out some of the, look at all these extra decimal places and things. We probably don't need some of those. And there it goes. Some of the decimal places disappeared, but I still have some up there. So let's see what's going on. Well, at least the output changed, so it looks like what I installed that they told me to did the right thing. So congratulations, we completed the lab. So now we see that it says 14 minutes there. Hit end lab when you're done, and then hit submit. And that will then invalidate those credentials we were using and the API keys, and they're busy right now closing all that stuff. So I'll say it's a good lab. I'll hit submit. So it's a little bit longer than the last lab. Now, let's see, 7 credits, and it's a pretty well reviewed. So here we're going to use the Google Maps JavaScript API to visualize where people should put a store close to the New York City subway stops, something like that. So we're going to build a visualization about the subway stations. Let's see. And it'll be scalable, maintainable, customizable. all kinds of neat things about that. So we'll look at the subway line data sets and the subway stations. So then you can figure out where you want to, let's see, we'll serve location data of subway stations using Google App Engine. Oh, that's right. This is a little bit different than I was thinking of. All right, the next lab we're doing right now is the mapping New York City subway. And for this, we're going to be using Google Cloud, Cloud Shell, and App Engine, and we're going to be making a Google map be styled so it'll look pretty. For that, we're going to be using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Go, and the Chrome Dev tools. But don't worry, they walk us through the different steps and give us the code that we need. Okay, it'll be good to be on a modern browser, or some of the things that you're trying won't work. And the things that aren't related to the Maps JavaScript API might be glossed over a little bit, or just provided to copy paste, because the main thing we're trying to learn about today is the Maps JavaScript API in this lab. But we'll see these other things that we talked about along the way, and we'll work on those in a kind of an easy way. So now we're going to scroll down again past all this setup stuff, because I'll be talking you through those. And we see this activate Cloud Shell. And you can come down here to the first command there, this gcloud auth list. That's the first one you're going to need. So what we're going to do is left click on the Start Lab green button. Now, in the background, they're provisioning for us an account with a username and password and a project ID just for us. So we're going to click the left mouse button on this copy button to copy the password. We don't have to copy the username because they're going to preload that for us. Now, here's a trick. Right click on this open Google console and choose open link in Incognito window. Okay, that opens a new Incognito window. Notice that it's Incognito, not 2 or 3. If you have more, you'll have to close those out first and then open this again. Here it shows you the username. They loaded that for us automatically. That's so handy. So we just have to hit next, and then we need to paste in the password that they gave us. If you didn't copy it, now go back, copy it, come back, paste it. Hit next. This screen here is telling us about our new account. We're just going to hit accept. And then now that we're in the Google Cloud Platform GUI, there's a pop-up telling us that we have to agree to the terms of service. Now I will click the agree and continue button, and you should do the same. Okay, with that, we can see the Google Cloud Platform GUI. And what they want us to do next is to go up here to the top right, and next to the help icon, there's an icon that says activate Cloud Shell. Click on that. Now, if you want a little more room, you can close this navigation menu. It's the hamburger button in the top left. If you click that, you'll get a little more space. Okay, now for Cloud Shell, there's a continue button. So click on that. And here we go. Now in this window here, we're going to do gcloud auth list. Okay, hit enter. And then it'll ask us if you want to authorize or reject. I do want to authorize. I want to allow that Cloud Shell to talk to the rest of Google Cloud for me. And that command I told you, the gcloud auth list command, lists which accounts you have that are logged in. And the one we have that's active is this student 03 account. Your student account might be different because they come from a pool of accounts. Everybody gets a different one. So we did that. Next one they want us to do is they want us to do gcloud config list project. Okay, gcloud config list project. Okay, and when you do that, you see the project ID number, and we can actually see that matches the command prompt here, and that matches the project ID that's over in the instructions that they gave us. Everything is going well. We scroll down to this section here called Enable the Google Maps JavaScript API. Now, I had us close that navigation menu earlier to make a little space. Now they want us to open that up and then to go down to API and Services Dashboard. Okay, so back to Incognito, top left, click the navigation menu button that looks like a hamburger. Scroll down to APIs and Services, and then let's just click on that because it used to say Dashboard. Now it doesn't say dashboard. The name has changed a little bit as they've improved and changed Google Cloud over time. So the dashboard is this main first page that you see. They want us to go to Enable APIs and Services. There's a button right here, this plus, Enable APIs and Services. Do you see it? I hope so. So APIs and Services, Enable APIs and Services button, click that, and then it shows you the API library, which has so many different categories of APIs, 373 different public APIs, 8 different private APIs just right there that we can choose from. And that's just the APIs that Google is offering us in Google Cloud. There's a lot more from other vendors as well that you can connect your Google Cloud projects to. So they want us to specifically open the Maps JavaScript API and then make sure that we enable that. So that's what we do. Maps JavaScript API. Click on that one. And it's disabled. So we want to click this enable button. Now we might need to wait a moment after we enable it before it'll actually be available for us to use. Even though it'll say enable, we still might need to wait a little bit. So we've done that. Now we're going to wait just a second and then click check your progress. If you check too early, maybe it's not done yet. And there we go. Let's see how many points that is. Just doing that, they gave us 30 points. So this seems like it's kind of an easy lab, right? We've got another 30 points when we generate the API key. When we deploy the app, we end up getting another 40 points. So I think a lot of the time is actually going to be us styling the map and deploying. They want us to use the code editor. So we're going to do another Go program, just like we did last time. This time our folder is going to be called NYC Subway. And we'll have an app.yaml file. So you might be wondering, why did I have last lab and this lab together? It's because we're using the same language, doing things in the same way. So this stuff is familiar, the Incognito. And now we're going to go down here in the bottom. We've got this Cloud Shell tab, Cloud Shell, right? We want to open the editor. This time I'm going to give a different instruction. We're going to open that, and then we're going to open in a new window. So we'll have this. I want us to go back to that first window though. And I want us to take this and get back into the Cloud Shell. There's a button here that says Open Terminal. I want you to open Terminal so we have it available. And I want you to pull this bar down, this little shelf here, so that you've got Cloud Shell just kind of like this. So you've got some room. So whatever else they want us to look at the top, we can do, and we'll still have the Cloud Shell. Like getting this kind of set up just nice and really comfortable. And then the second tab will be this Google Cloud Code, which is using Minikube. And then on the the left-hand bottom corner, down there, it doesn't show any folders, but they want us to have an NYC Subway folder. So go to File, down to New Folder, and then paste in that name or type it in, NYC-Subway. We've got that folder. Inside that folder, we're going to make a file called app.yaml. File, new file, paste, app.yaml, enter. And now the contents will be very similar to what we had on the last one, except this one isn't limited to admins only. File, save. Okay. We're going to scroll down, create the hello.go file in the same folder. Hello.go. We can do that. We just made one file. We can make another. So copy the name, come back to tab 2 of the Incognito window, hit File, New File, and paste in that name. Hit Enter. Okay. Back to the instructions, copy the script. Back to the editor, paste in that script. Save it. So far, pretty easy stuff. Just read the instructions carefully, copy things, paste things. Now, they want us to understand what the code does. You'll notice here it has this handle function and the handle slash. So if you visit this web page and don't say anything, just visit the page, it's going to write out hello world to your web browser. So that's interesting. So we're ready for that. So gcloud config set project ID. Oh, we're going to need to have our project ID. I think this has already been covered because this is if we look at tab 1 there, it has the project ID right here. So hit copy on this gcloud config set project ID, paste that in. Now, I want you to delete, once you delete the project underscore ID part, just like on my screen, and then we're going to paste in the project ID. Paste. So it'll say gcloud config set project, and then it'll have the project ID. Enter. Okay, the next command they want us to do is to change directory to go into the New York City subway folder. And if that worked, then run go app serve. This is shell syntax from that works in shells like the bash shell, for example. So change the directory to this directory, and if and only if that worked, then run this command. And that go app serve, that's kind of like what we were using before so many times in the last lab. I'm just going to do that. Now we've got that code running. There it goes. It's starting up, and it's listening on port 8080 again. And just like on the last lab, we go and we preview that on port 8080. Back to Incognito, bottom right-hand side, you've got this web preview button next to the sprocket. And we're going to click on that button and then click preview on port 8080. Now we've got a third tab. It opened in the middle though. So we've got a first tab has our Cloud Shell. Second tab has Hello World, and third tab has our code. So that's where we're at so far. And the Hello World worked just fine. They want us to shut down the server by typing Control-C. Now the server, what do they mean? Where do they mean? Well, it's not this page here. It's not the second tab. It's the first tab down in the bottom in the Cloud Shell. That's where they want us to click into that window and then hit Control-C to stop running that little server. Okay, scroll down. Now they're going to talk to us about GeoJSON. The GEO part of it, that's geographical, like from the world of geographic information systems, GIS. I've worked with servers related to that before that that would do running ArcInfo. I thought that area was very interesting, the different things about geographical information systems. Anyway, there's a standard for how to represent and share geographical information in the web, on the web. And that standard is called GeoJSON. Okay. So that's what they're talking about here. Now they're going to have us use a Go package that parses the data into a GIS data structure that then we can use to filter the requests. Probably we'll get a lot of data, then we want just the data related to those subway lines and subway stations. And then we'll serialize the data to be able to transmit it between the web server and the web browser. So that just means we're going to convert it to another format. And then we're going to convert the response into markers and lines on a map. That's going to be pretty cool. By using the GeoJSON, we save a lot of work having to type code because we don't need to redo all kinds of different things that's already been handled by that library or having that standard. Let's see. New York City Open Data makes a lot of different public data from New York City agencies available for free to the public so they can learn more and make interesting things. Let's see. They have city data like about subway stations and subway lines, and that's what we're going to use today. All right. There's some terms of service or terms of use that you can read if you want to know about what restrictions there are, but I'm pretty sure it'll be open and allowed for learning. And then we're going to visualize that data. So to get started on this part, are you with me? We're going to download the GeoJSON data into the app. And to do that, we're going to make a folder for the data. We'll go into that folder. We'll download the data about subway stations. And then we'll do another request to download data about subway lines. We'll leave that folder when we're done to go one folder up. And then we'll edit the app.yaml to make a more complicated App Engine application. So not just as simple as what we started with back here. Because when we first started, it was only 5 lines long. And this new app.yaml, is easily about twice that. Copy this first one, the make dir data and cd data. Paste that into Cloud Shell. Paste, enter. Copy the next one to do the curl command to get the location of the subway stations. Done. Copy the location of this of the address for the subway lines, the subway lines, and then we'll leave that folder. I want to make sure I get this right. So now we're in the NYC subway folder, not in that data folder anymore. So we're back to where we are supposed to be. And then they want us to edit the app.yaml file to have it more complicated. So copy this code and then come back over, but we're going to go to tab 3 this time. Tab 3 has our editor, our Google Cloud Code editor. Go to the app.yaml file, highlight everything there, and paste the new longer app.yaml file over that. File save, and we're rocking. Look at that. So we've done that. We're ready to go to serve a much more complicated app, but there's something missing. We need a web page to serve. So we're going to serve up this web page, but we're going to need to have an API key. Now, we made an API key in the last lab too. So it's the same kind of way, the same kind of API key. So copy that index.html, and we want to put that into a new directory called static. If you just copied it and went and made it, it'd be in the wrong place. We have to make sure we make a new directory called static under the main directory of the app, and then we'll create this index.html. Come back over here with me to Google Cloud Code. Left side, bottom, NYC subway. So when we're in that folder, we've got it highlighted, then we go File, New Folder. In there, we want to make one called static. Those are parts of the app that don't change. They are static. So we've got that. And now we're going to go File, New File. Now I'm saying New File only because this folder is already highlighted. If a different folder or path was highlighted, then it's not going to go into the right place. So highlight that static folder, and then go File, New File. Now this is going to be index.html. Okay, that's the standard page that web browsers look for when they visit a website. They ask for the index.html or index.html. Okay, we're going to paste in. Uh-oh, it says to do. Replace your API key in the following line. Oh, and there it is. See, key equals your API key. So we need to go and get an API key and then put it into this line. We've got 3 tabs. The first tab is where we're going to go to get a new API key. You know what? They've got some handy instructions for us. Maybe we'll just use those. Let's scroll down here to this 1 through 7 instructions. And it says open the, this is another one that opens directly to the maps one because it enables the API for you. Don't left click it because you don't want to do this in your account. You want to do this in their account. So right click it instead. Open link in Incognito window. That gets us to a 4th tab. It asks if we want to make changes to that Quick Labs project. We do. Do we want to enable the Maps JavaScript API? Absolutely. And then it's going to tell us that we don't have a key, but it'll give us a button to create a new one. That's exactly what we need to do. We've made a key. We want to copy that key. And then we want to go to the 3rd tab, and we want to find that spot in line 10 where it says your API key. We want to highlight just exactly your API key. If you get mixed up and miss even one letter, it'll be the wrong thing. Highlight exactly there from after the equal sign to right before the ampersand, and then Control V to paste. File, save. Doing awesome. Doing awesome. We've got that saved. We're getting ready to run this. There's another thing we've got to do though. We've got to get some JavaScript to make it interactive and some CSS to make it look pretty. So we're going to make another file called static/style.css, and we'll put this CSS code there to make the map be 100% tall, 100% wide, with no margin and no padding. So it'll give us the whole page. All right, hit copy on that. So style.css to the static folder. highlight that static folder, so it's dark blue like this, and then go File, New File, and then this one was, what is this one called? Style.css, style.css. Okay, empty, Control V to paste into it, and then you want to just save that. Next one is one called app.js. Okay, app.js. So for that one, also click on that static folder. Highlight the static folder, go File, New File. This one was, what was that again? App.js. App.js. Okay. And then paste in the code into that empty file and then hit File, Save. That'll enter in that it should be, that the map should be centered on New York City and how it should be zoomed, things like that. Okay, so there's a little bit more that we're going to be doing to filter the data before we actually start to use it directly. Now we're going to go update the Go source code. We're going to change the hello.go to be main.go to reflect better what it is that we're doing with it. All right, and probably so they can grade if we did it or not. So let's go do that. We're going to rename hello.go to main.go, and then we're going to change the code to be this code. All right, so copy that file. So where is that? Hello.go is over here in our Cloud Code Editor over in the Incognito third tab. Click on that, right click. Let's see, how do we rename it? There you go. So you can rename it in the bottom section, not in that top open editors part, but down here in the file browser. So find that hello.go, right click on it and choose rename. Then we can change it to be main.go. This is going to be the main part of our application. And we want to change the code that's in there to be the code that they gave us to copy and paste. I'm going to paste that in now. You can go back and copy it, come back here, paste it, and then of course save it. All right, so this code does a couple things. It loads all the files under data into memory, and then starts to configure itself to serve requests for anything under data. And okay, that's going to make it so we can get to that GeoJSON data. We're going to rerun the web application locally. In the NYC subway directory, run the following: go app serve. And that's something we ran so many times before. Let's go do that. If we want to get to the Cloud Shell, that's on the first tab in our Incognito window. Let's do that. Double check that you're in the NYC subway folder. This is the moment of truth where you'll notice, where you'll have trouble if you aren't. Control V, extra code in there. We want you to just run go app space serve. You could type it in, or you could copy and paste it. All right, now that should be running on localhost port 8080. So if we go to tab 2, we can take a look at it. I'm going to reload this and see if it, oh wow, that's cool. We've got subway lines, we've got spots on the map, but I don't know about you. I think I'd like to make them look a little different, a little better. What do you think? I think we can do something better than this. It's awesome, but it can get better. So it's just like the picture in their example. We're going to restyle the map to make it look like a subway map. And look at that, we got 60 points now. The last thing will be to deploy it to production. But first we have to get it to be finished. And to go from nothing to having something that's working with real data, mapping like this, that's so impressive and so cool that you can do that very quickly with App Engine and Go and all of these different tools that we're using today, like the Maps JavaScript API. So now we have a Go server that's serving content to a browser that has all the subway stations in New York City and the train lines, but it doesn't look like a subway map yet. So we're going to restyle it. They've got some information about the things that we're going to add in to make it look more like a real subway map should. So there's this mapswithstyle.google.com. They say to open in a new tab. Warning, warning, warning. Right click it, open an incognito window. Now you see this new window opened up. It's the fifth tab that we've got. Down at the bottom, it's got either cloud style maps or the old style. And they said take me to the old style. So it looks just like the instructions. Now this is centered on Seattle. So we've got the attributes are on the left and the example is on the right. And here's the things that we want to change. Let's see what they say. Shows a certain style, try different themes or more options, and explore the different capabilities. When you're ready, click the finish. Well, what would happen if I made there be less roads shown? See, the roads disappear. What if there were less landmarks? How about less labels? Then we get kind of more of just the outlines. What if there were no landmarks? All the landmarks. So then you see the museums and things, but you don't see all of the streets. You see the train-related infrastructure, right? But you don't see the roads. Let's bring those roads back. So the bridges show up as well when you turn the roads on, right? Roads and bridges. Without those, you wouldn't be able to get to Mercer Island, for example. And there's even some ferries. A couple different ferry lines to take you to different places. So that's Seattle for you. Now, what are we going to do next? We're going to go back to the instructions and we'll see what they want us to do. Oh, when you're ready, click finish. So let's choose silver. Let's set it up to roads as 3, landmarks as 1, labels as none. Roads as 3, landmarks as 1. Is that right? Yeah, just like the example. And then we'll hit dismiss about that survey thing so that we'll be able to see the finish button and then click finish. Now here it's giving us a style. JSON that we can copy into our website or a URL to see this as a static map. Now what do they want us to do next with it? They want us to copy the JSON. We can do that. It says it's copied to the clipboard. If it didn't, you can always highlight all of it and copy it manually. So we're going to go to the app.js file and we're going to add a bunch of code to apply that style. Oh, they included stuff that was copied from that. So we aren't going to have to copy our own. They copied it already for us. Yeah, you can see here like the different parts of the road stuff that are off and things like that. So they already included stuff that was in here. So they did that part for us. And a little bit more too. So now what we're going to do is we're going to copy this example they've got into our app.js. Oh, look at that. We can use the lab example. We don't have to do something different. So we'll just use the lab example. That'll be easier. They said, well, you could replace this part, right? This part here. You could replace that with your own different map style. That's what they were telling us we can do. I'm happy with the style that they're going to use as an example. So then we can, all the screenshots will look right later on and will line up with their example. So we did that, copy this. Now we're going to go to the third tab, find that app.js file, highlight everything, replace that by Control-V, pasting, replace that with this new, more complicated file that has the map style, has the route colors for the different subway lines, and then opens the map at zoom level 12, so zoomed in a little bit more, centered on New York City, and then has the data from the subway lines, the subway stations, and it even made a little line. Look at that. There's a path and all kinds of things. So they drew a little station. And if it's not a station, then it's a line, and they'll just draw a route. Stations have lines, lines do not. Interesting. Okay, so we took a look at that code. We pasted it in. I think I saved it. And we'll scroll down past that and see how they want us to test it. Okay, they have a description of things. That's kind of like what I was just doing. You can read this at your leisure. And on any of these labs, you can come in and look at the lab and read through the lab code, even when you're not taking a lab. So, okay, so all kinds of neat things are in there. But when are we going to actually use it? If we refresh the browser, we should see it. Okay, well, let's do that. So that's the second tab. And let's refresh and see if we get the new styling. Wow, that's cool. But we're zoomed out a ways. Let's zoom in a little. So we're building our own subway map. Interesting. We're going to filter the data. We don't want so much data. And to do that, we've got a new version of app.js for us, it looks like. We'll delay loading the GeoJSON for the stations until an idle callback fires. So we're going to update the JavaScript to be a little bit more featureful, and then we'll go and change the backend as well. So if you've heard of somebody being a front-end developer and a back-end developer, the front-end ones are working with stuff like JavaScript, CSS, HTML. The back-end developers are working with stuff like Go or Python or Ruby or different back-end programming languages. So copy this app.js, come back over to the third tab, highlight everything that's in that old version of app.js. We don't like that version anymore. It was good for its purpose, but now it's gone. Paste in the new one and hit File, Save. That one's changed. Scroll down to get the instructions for what we're going to change about the backend code. First, they want us to shut down that server. Now that's in the Cloud Shell command line. And then they've got 3 different commands in a row for us to run. Get ready to run those. Copy the first one. Okay, just click this copy, then hit Alt-Tab. We've got 5 different tabs. We want to go to tab 1 to the bottom where we've got our little server and hit Control-C. That closed our little server. Now we're going to paste in the command that they just gave us. Come back, get the next command, this go get GitHub command. Okay, and then we'll also get this other go get GitHub command about RTR, rtrigo. Paste that. So we did the 3 things that they asked us. So that'll help. Those packages are going to help us parse GeoJSON and run a viewbox bounded queries. Interesting. So now we'll make a new Go file about the subway stations. And that'll be what we get to when we go to /subway stations. How are we going to do that? So they want us to make a new file in NYC subway directory called stations.go. So copy that name. Don't get the period at the end. Just get stations.go. Back to our Incognito, third tab. And we're going to go to, let's see, that goes in NYC subway. So click on NYC subway over here. So it's highlighted. Yes, it's red. It thinks there's a problem. There's no problem. There's not actually a problem, but it thinks there's a problem. And then highlight that, right? And then go File, New File. Paste the name of the new file, stations.go, hit enter. Now come back over here to the instructions, copy, and then paste in. Hopefully this stuff is helping to have somebody walking you through it. That works just fine. We need to save it. It does a whole bunch of stuff. You can read through that. Basically, it's reading in those new libraries that we installed, and then it's taking the data and structuring it in a way that's more efficient to work with. And then they've got another thing we want to do. We want to make some small changes to the main.go file. And then we'll restart the server. Then we'll be almost done. So copy this new main.go contents. Let's go and find main.go. Highlight everything in main.go, delete it, and then Control-V to paste in the new version. File, save. Okay, now we're going to restart the server. So there's a command for that that's going to use this go format command to reformat the Go files to make them look pretty. And then we're going to, if that works, and only if that works, then we're going to run go app serve. If it fails, then there will be an error message and our web page will stop working. So let's go back to Incognito, go to the first tab, go to the bottom to that Cloud Shell window, paste in this go format.star.go and go app serve. It's formatting them and it's running. So now we can go to tab 2 and refresh, and we should see something a little different than before. Okay, we do. But is that everything? Let's see. As you zoom in or out, the stations disappear or reappear in odd ways near the edge of the viewport. Okay, so we're going to work around that by expanding the viewport used to query the station's R tree data structure. We can also look at reducing the number of stations displayed. And that's going to be the focus of the next version. I noticed that they go away and come back. They kind of flash, but not sure if I can see exactly the issue that they're describing there, but okay. So we're doing pretty well. We've just got clustering and deploying, and the deploying is going to get us the rest of the points. That's a 40-point task. And we're at 750 here, so we're making excellent time. So to cluster on the server, in app.js, we need to make 3 changes. We're going to add the map's current zoom level to data subway station's AJAX request. We'll add dynamic styling, and we'll simplify the click handler. So right now, let's see if they've got any change that we're making to the Go. There is a change to the Go. We're going to change and replace the JavaScript. That's in the 3rd tab over in Incognito. So that's in app.js, highlight it all. It used to be 199 lines. Now we're going to paste. It's 189 lines. So a little different. Tweaked, changed a little bit. We're going to modify the backend code. Main.go is unchanged, but we need to make some changes to stations.go before we add a new clusterer.go for clustering the stations together. Okay, so let's go and edit stations.go and replace its content with this content here. And then we'll go and make a new cluster after we stop the server and then get this point clustering related library. Right now we're going to go over to stations.go. We're going to replace the contents of stations.go with a new version. Highlight, delete, paste. Once you've got that stations.go replaced, then we need to do this other thing of getting that point clustering code. So to do that, we go to tab 1 at the bottom where we're running the script. We're going to stop by hitting Control-C, paste in the command that they ask us to, hit enter, and that gets from GitHub the Go point clustering. It's pretty complicated, does mathematical calculations to find the right cluster size. So you could take a look at it if you want to. Something about projecting a map onto a surface of an oblate spheroid, flat planar projection. So there's art and science to it. Now we're going to make a new file called clusterer.go. Now, do they tell us where to put it, or they didn't say exactly? So what we're going to do is go back to our Incognito, go to the 3rd tab. We're in the Cloud Code Editor, and we're going to find where the other Go files are. That's in the NYC subway at the main level, and at that level, that's where we're going to do File, New File. And this one's supposed to be clusterer, C-L-U-S-T-E-R-E-R, clusterer.go. Yes, enter. So now we've got a new empty file. We'll paste in the code sample that they gave us that figures out exactly how to decide which of the stations go together and stuff like that. Okay, lots of details. So you can read through this and know kind of all the different reasoning behind what they're doing there. The final thing is we just want to restart the server and see what it looks like, and then these new plus ones are going to let you kind of dig in and see the ones that are related to each other. So come back over to your Incognito window. Go to the 1st tab. Go to the bottom. You've got the Cloud Shell. Down there, we're going to paste in the command they told us, which was go format, star.go, and go app served. So that go format, oh, okay. All right, go app serve. So that's running, ready to go. And now we should be able to look at our 2nd tab in Incognito, refresh, and it should change. Now we've got these clusters that are grouped together. Then you can click the plus to find them, and you can see there's 126 stations in there. There were just so many. Where there's a station that's far away from all other stations, then they still show it. But if there's a whole bunch of them all together, and they were clustering it. That's pretty cool. Now to deploy to production, we're going to update the main.go just a little bit, and then we'll deploy this to App Engine. And then we also need to update our app.yaml, move one of our folders into gopath/source, and then we'll deploy it. So there's a few things we're going to do. All of this is fairly easy. The app.yaml part, we need to edit the file, and then these others we need to do in Cloud Shell. We've got to update the main.go. So we need to shut down the server, update the main.go, and then we need to do some more things. Copy the main.go code, the new code, go to your third tab in Incognito, find that main.go, highlight all, delete, paste in your new code, file, save. Okay, we got that. Now what next? Now we go and update the app.yaml. So copy, and then go over to app.yaml in tab 3 of your Incognito window. Go to the Google Cloud Code editor, which is tab 3. Find app.yaml, select all, delete, paste in the new one, file, save. Okay, now they've got 3 commands in a row. Change directory, and then we want to move. So that'll take us back to our home directory. Then we want to move the New York City subway to gopath/source, and then we want to go into gopath/source New York City subway. So we're going to put this into there. So hit Control-C, Control-V, paste that in, hit Enter. Hopefully it did all the stuff just like we want it, and then we're going to deploy it. Why? When it asks us to say yes. They want us to choose US Central. So US Central is number 17. 17, Enter, and we'll let it process for a little bit. It should have deployed. We have to say yes. So let's hit Alt-Tab. Oh, do you want to continue? Yes. Capital Y, hit Enter. Start running it. First, it has to upload all the different files to Google Cloud Storage. It's got some other information it's going to share, but we don't need to see that right now. Next thing after it finishes is we'll run gcloud app browse. Okay, and that'll get us the URL. And then we'll click it and view that. And then hopefully that'll work out and we'll be able to check our progress. I actually already got 100 out of 100, so it worked enough. I'll hit check my progress. We got 100 points, but I do want to see it. I want to see this final version. So I'm going to hit gcloud app browse over here once it's all the way deployed. So it's busy starting. There it gave us the URL. This deployed service default to highlight it, copy it, open that in another one of these Incognito tabs. So open a new Incognito tab, paste that in, and I guess this is our final version, but this one is installed in App Engine. You can tell because it's an AppSpot domain instead of this other one that was run in the Cloud Shell. In a way that we could run this, having millions of people all visit it, things like that. It scales up and scales down automatically, and we get charged based on the usage. So that's amazing. We got it done. We've done that. Congratulations. Hit End Lab, and then hit Submit, and you can review the lab. I liked the lab. It was a little complicated, but they told us that it was going to be complicated. It was an advanced lab. And then hit Submit. And now we've got 3 of the 5. And the only 2 we don't have are ones where the lab was broken when we tried it last week. So once they fix those labs, then I'll let you guys know, and we can go through those again and get all of the points, and then get this badge. But the part we had to do for tonight, these last 2, we did it. You did it. You're awesome. Thanks again for attending the School of Cloud. Now check out some of our other videos, and see you back next time.